application of clefs and pitch. In the grade 1 syllabus, you need to be able to label or identify notes, add a clef to identify whether these notes are in the treble or a bass clef, or write given notes in the treble and in the bass clef. These notes are all on the staff. From grade 2, you need to be able to read up to 2 lines below or above a staff in both the treble and in the bass clef. The challenge with ledger lines is being able to establish when 2 notes are actually the same note on the instrument, but written in 2 different clefs. Always find middle C first. If this is middle C in the treble clef, this is middle C in the bass clef. Now, if I find middle C, this is C, B, A. This is the A just below middle C. So in the bass clef, I want to find the A that's just below middle C. This is the note right next to middle C. Middle C in the bass clef. This is the note right next to middle C in the bass clef. This is middle C, and this is the E just above middle C. Here's middle C. I want to go up to the E that's just above middle C. Going from the treble clef to the bass clef, this is the note, the G, that is just below middle C. Find middle C, C, B, A, G. I'm not adding the sharps or flats, I'm just showing you how to find the notes. This is the D just above middle C. Here's middle C, that's the G, the D just above middle C. This is C, D, E, the E just above middle C. Here's middle C, C, D, E, the E just above middle C. One more. This is middle C, that is the A just below middle C. Here's middle C, B, A, that's the A just below middle C. Now you also need to be able to rewrite a given passage at the same pitch in a different clef. Again, start with middle C. If this is middle C, this is the note, the A, just below middle C. So this is middle C in the treble clef. I want to start on the A just below middle C. And from there onwards, make sure that the curve of your given passage and the curve of your answer is the same. The next exercise, this is middle C. I'm starting on the E just above middle C. This is middle C in the bass clef. So I want to go C, D, E. I'm starting on the E just above middle C. This starts on middle C. I'm going to start on middle C and go down to the G just below. And again, make sure your answer has the same curve as the given melody. In grade 3, you now have to be able to go down an octave or up an octave using a new clef. Again, find middle C. In the treble clef, this is middle C. In the bass clef, this is middle C. This is the G just above middle C. Therefore, if I go down an octave, I want to start on the G that is just below middle C. In this one, I'm going to use the bass clef and I'm going to go down an octave. Here's middle C in the treble clef. So this is the G, an octave higher than middle C. So if I go down an octave, I'm going to start on this G. This G is 5 notes above middle C. So find middle C in the bass clef and go 5 notes up. And that is then your starting note. And this one, down an octave, going to the bass clef. I'm starting on the G, 5 notes above middle C. So I want to start, if I go 1 octave lower, on the G that is just below middle C, and that's there for my starting note. Going up an octave, I'm going to follow exactly the same process. I'm going up an octave into the treble clef. Here's my treble clef. This is the C, an octave lower than middle C. Find middle C. Therefore, if I'm going an octave higher from this C, I'm going to middle C, and therefore my answer starts on middle C. Make sure your answer follows the same curve, the same intervals than the original given phrase. In this example, I'm going an octave up to the treble clef. So here's middle C. The starting note is the A just below middle C. I want to therefore start on the A an octave higher than that A, which will be the A just above middle C. This one, here's middle C. My given extract is starting on the D one note above middle C, which means that this exercise starts on the D just one step above middle C. I want to go an octave up, so I'm going to start on this D. In grade 4, you are introduced to the alto clef. Remember that the alto clef or the C clef indicates where C is. So the alto clef shows you that middle C is on the middle line. Please note that you have to draw the 2 lines before the clef, such as in the example. Then firstly, you need to label or identify notes on the staff or up to 2 ledger lines below or above the line or the staff in the alto clef. Start with middle C. If this is middle C, then I go as my lines and my spaces as you learned in the treble and the bass clef. I go down C, A, F, D, go back to middle C, C, E, G, B, D. When I rewrite a given passage to the alto clef, I will use exactly the same method I used in the other grades, going up an octave, down an octave, or at the same pitch in a different clef. I find middle C. So here, the question is to rewrite this passage in the alto clef. Where's middle C? There's middle C. I write my C clef. I find middle C, which is in the middle. I start 5 notes above middle C. So I want to start 5 notes above middle C. And then you follow step by step the notes as they appear in the given passage, making sure that your answer has the same pattern or the same curve as the given melody. From the bass clef to the alto clef, I draw my alto clef. There's middle C. Here's middle C. So this passage starts 1 note higher than middle C. So I want to start 1 note higher than middle C. In this passage, there's middle C. In the alto clef, there's middle C. I start 1 note lower than, it's the B, 1 note lower than C. So I want to start on the B, 1 note lower than C. When you have to go an octave higher or lower, you'll follow exactly the same process as you did in the grade 3 book. You're just now working with the alto clef. When rewriting a passage that's been given in the alto clef to the treble or the bass clef, exactly the same process. Find middle C. This passage starts 5 notes higher than middle C. In my treble clef, here's middle C. I want to start 5 notes higher than middle C. Going from the alto clef to the bass clef, where's middle C? That's middle C in the alto clef. This is middle C in the bass clef. I want to start on the F, 5 notes lower than middle C. There's the F, 5 notes lower than middle C. And now make sure when you write your answer that you follow step by step the jumps as they happen in the passage in your answer. In grade 5, you are introduced to the tenor clef. It is also a C clef, and it looks exactly like the alto clef, except it is moved 1 line up. It also indicates where C goes. So look at this. There's middle C, as the clef indicates. And exactly like you did in the treble and the bass and the alto clef, you always work from C. So if I start on C, C, B, A, G, F, E, etc. And therefore, also in the tenor clef, you need to be able to identify or write notes in the tenor clef. When rewriting a passage from the bass or the treble clef to the tenor clef, you follow exactly the same process as you did with all the other exercises in the previous grades. You find middle C first. There's middle C. My given passage starts on the A, just below middle C. I want to keep the pitch the same. So I'm going to draw my tenor clef, which shows me where C is. My answer needs to start on the A just below middle C. And that's the A just below middle C. From the bass clef again, there's middle C. There's my tenor clef, which indicates C over there. I want to start on the E just below middle C. Here's C, A, F, E. That's the E just below middle C. From the treble clef to the tenor clef, there's middle C, there's middle C. I start 5 notes above middle C. So C, E, G. My answer will start 5 notes above middle C.